I'm sure other people will pipe in as well. So everybody, thank you so much. And I'm going to go ahead. Lindsay, am I turning this over to you?
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to have Jennifer, do you want to introduce yourself real quick since you're on today?
Oh, sure. And I'll do, I brought a resource for everyone today for Minecraft, and I'll give that at the end as well. So while everybody waits to get the link for their PD hours at the end, you'll also get a link to a resource we have. But so you know who I am, I'm Jennifer Brown. I'm a K-12 education strategist with CDW-G, former educator from Des Plaines District 62. And I'm really here just backing Lindy up. If I see a question in the chat that I can answer, I will definitely do that. But I don't want to take too much time away from the great content. So I will cut my intro there and pass it to Lindy so we can dive in.
Okay, great. And I don't see Megan on. Megan, are you there? Are you there? Can you
I don't think she was able to join today.
I didn't see her list. Okay, great. And I think you guys met everybody else yesterday. So we will move forward. So welcome. We're going to talk about placing your first blocks today. So we are on our second day of our weekly Munch and Mine or daily Munch and Mine sessions. Tomorrow will be the classroom build challenges. I am Lindy, for those that weren't here yesterday, and a little reminder. So I'll kind of be leading you through these sessions. We talked about that. Just a quick reminder, today this is going to be really important. I talked about this yesterday, that you're going to want to have the Teams meeting up on one screen where you can see my slides that I'm sharing right now, and then Minecraft up on another screen. If you also want to have the PowerPoint slides and the Padlet up on the screen that you have your Minecraft open on too, that could be something that you could reference throughout. And here's another little reminder of our Teams buttons, how to turn your webcam on, off, how to mute yourself, open up the chat. Looks like this little conversation bubble right here. And then the chat will show up over on the right. For some reason, you don't see the chat bubble down here. You could look for it up in the top right corner. It might be there. And again, yeah, add your questions to the chat, and there's lots of people here to answer them. I will periodically stop and make sure there's nothing that has to be answered right at that moment. And then whatever other questions are looming at the end, I will answer then. So if you didn't catch the sign in at the beginning, this is a different sign in than yesterday. Pretty please make sure you go to this link and just complete it real quick. If you were here yesterday, it'll just ask for your name. You'll say, yes, I'm here. Submit, you're done. If you weren't here yesterday, it'll say, were you here? Say no, and then it gives you some additional questions to answer. So aka.ms/Minecraft sign in, and Christy just put that link in the chat for you. All right, so just a little fun kind of get to know you today. Yesterday we talked about the weather, where we're at. Today, let's share where you're located in the world. So I know we're mostly Illinois, but we had somebody from New Jersey yesterday. I live in Bozeman, Montana. I was kind of curious where you're at in Illinois. Oak Lawn, Chicago, Elmhurst. Oh, Peoria. I was just there before the whole can't travel thing. I was in Peoria and Chicago. Oh, Sacramento, California. Great. Logan Square, Chicago. Very good. Anybody else from outside Illinois? Looks like all over Illinois. Buffalo Grove, Barrington, St. Charles. Great. Okay. So I'll keep doing this, kind of have just a fun little question each day where we can get to know each other a little better. Even if you're not in the same room, you can still get to know each other. All right, just another little reminder, if you want this PowerPoint, there's the link to it, aka.ms/Minecraft idea presentation. And this has all the slides for the whole entire week. So this is the same link every day. It's got all the slides. I'm kind of slowly changing a few things here or there, but for the most part, all the content is there. And we also have our collaborative Padlet that you are welcome to kind of use as a back channel as well if you have tips, ideas to add about Minecraft as we're talking. And you can get to that Padlet from tinyurl.com/munchinmine. So munch, the letter in, mine. And those are in the chat as well. So here, the first column is kind of like your tips and other shares in the Padlet. And you can just click that plus button, and that will add a little sticky note to the Padlet. All right, let's get going. So I know I have some iron block group people here. So I'm going to start by showing you some things that you can do since you already know how to play Minecraft. Brick block people, you're going to stay with me. So just hold off for a second. Let me get the iron block people going, and then we will jump into how to play Minecraft. So if you have the PowerPoint open, my iron group people, if you go to this slide, find my slide number 70, there are 5 different options for you. So depending upon what you've done, what you haven't done, one thing that you might want to explore is the tutorial world. Even though you know how to play Minecraft, this is a really great resource to use with your students. So it might be something that you want to go in and play around with. So if you click here on slide 70, it will send you to instructions of how you access the tutorial world. If you have not tried the code connector in Minecraft, we're not going to have a chance to talk about that this week. So if you open up Minecraft Education Edition, type the letter C, it will launch that code builder for you, and you can actually code in Minecraft. So if you've never explored that, try that out. There's also lots of information about it on the Minecraft Education Edition website, education.minecraft.net, which is right here. You could also try the chemistry pack in Minecraft Education Edition. If you've never seen that, you can actually combine elements and make compounds and molecules and all sorts of fun stuff. There is a slide here, if you click right here, that will take you to instructions for that. There's also a slide that gives you some challenges. So maybe if you have never tried redstone, you could go in and play around with it. Redstone I talked about real briefly yesterday. That's how you create circuits in Minecraft. So that could be something you could play with. Or go to the Minecraft Education Edition website, which I introed yesterday, and continue exploring around in there. There's so many ideas and lessons and trainings and tips packed into that website. All right. So again, this is for my iron group people. These are 5 different options of things, kind of like a choose your own adventure plan that you can do while the rest of us are kind of learning Minecraft. And then we're going to do a short little build if you want to jump back and then build with us. And yes, that's it. And kind of towards the end, there might be some things that you'll want to jump in with the big group on, because we're going to talk about specific classroom settings that are only for Education Edition. So even if you know how to play Minecraft, that will probably be new for you. All right, and then here's your slides showing you how to access the chemistry, what can I do challenges, etc. All right, brick block people, you are back with me. We are going to learn how to play Minecraft. So here's our learning objectives. Learn to play, how to move, place, destroy blocks, how to use your inventory and the hotbar to choose items for building. If you want a control guide in front of you, I know that one was emailed out to you. You can also go to this website right here, tinyurl.com/Minecraft control guide. That will take you to just this. It's also on the slides if you want to get to it that way. You could print this out, have it in front of you. Some people like to have that and make notes on it. This is kind of the controls that we're going to be learning today of how you navigate a Minecraft world. This is if you are using a Windows and Mac device with a keyboard and mouse. Is anybody using an iPad to play Minecraft Education Edition? Just tell me yes. Shelly, Minecraft Education Edition does not work for Chromebooks. Okay, yes, we have some iPad people. So if you're using an iPad, the controls are different because it's all touch. You're not using your external mouse and keyboard. So that touch control guide you can get at tinyurl.com/Minecraft for iPad. All right. And you can also click here and download it on the slides. You can also get to it from the slide. So however you want to get there, if you want that in front of you, I will try to remember to cue the touch commands for those of you that are using an iPad. All right, so here's the things we're going to learn in kind of the order that we're going to learn them. just to give you a quick little glance. So first thing we're going to learn is how to change your skin. And in gamer world, your skin is basically how your avatar looks. Okay, so hopefully you were able to log in. You're to this screen where you see the play button. We're not going to click play quite yet. What you're going to do is look over here on the right, and this is your little avatar guy. And yours is probably going to look different because I've changed my skin to look like this. If you click on the little clothes hanger, you can change the look of your avatar, the little Minecraft avatar. So if you click that little clothes hanger icon, it sends you to this view, and then you can click through over on the left and scroll, find whatever you're interested in and pick one. This seems sometimes you're kind of like, oh, well, you know, what's the point of this? But two things. One, if you don't allow your students to do this, they're going to do it anyway, right? So just give them the time to pick their skin and let them have a little fun with it. And two, there actually are some really good learning kind of connections with changing your skin in Minecraft. For example, there is like a career pack. So there's an astronaut and a firefighter and a police officer. So you can actually adjust your skin based upon what you're doing in Minecraft. So maybe you're building a space station, or maybe there's actually a world that is a space station and they have to figure out how to grow, how to get water and grow food. So maybe you have them put on the astronaut skin for that thing, or maybe you're doing some type of career connection or story where they want to match their character, right? The skin to the character in the story. So that's kind of where the skin comes in. So you'll pick whatever skin that you want, and then when you have it, you'll click confirm down on the bottom right, and that's it. That's all you do to change the skin of your Minecraft character. So now we've got the skin that we want. We're going to learn how we actually create a world in Minecraft. So everything in Minecraft is based upon worlds, and you can have lots of different worlds. So you might have a world that's underwater world. You might have a world that's a town. You might have a world that's a desert biome, okay? And that'll kind of make more sense as we go through. So once you confirm your skin, it should take you back to this screen, and you're going to click on the play button. So now we're actually going to click on play. Once you click on play, it'll send you to this view. And we are not going to view worlds, because if you haven't played before, you're not going to have any worlds to view. We're going to create a new world. So where that yellow arrow is pointing with the plus sign, you're going to click on that. Create new. And then you'll get two options. You want to create a new world or a template world. We're going to do a template world. And I'll kind of explain this why we're doing this later in the week. It'll kind of all start to make sense. So create new, and then you're going to choose template. And then you're going to choose, it should be the first template called blocks of grass. So we want the world called blocks of grass. If you don't see it for some reason, type in the search bar and just start typing blocks of grass or grass, and it should bring that world up. So the reason we're using this template world is it's literally what it says. It's a world that's just solid, flat grass. So there is, nothing. It's just a build world. There's nothing to get in your way. I use this anytime we're doing a creative build, which is what we're going to do today and tomorrow. All right. So we're going to go into the blocks of grass world. Once you click on it, you're going to say create new, because you want to create your own blocks of grass world. Once you click on create new, you can change the world name. You don't have to. You can leave it called blocks of grass. But what I recommend is to click where it says blocks of grass and to change that world name to something having your name in it. So mine is Lindy's world. Maybe you have Christine's world, Adam's world. Okay. You can also name it pretty much whatever you want, just so that you know what we're going to be building in here. How to get back to it is that name of that world. Okay, so name it whatever you want. Once you change the name, don't click play quite yet, because we're going to change a couple key settings here to make this world work for a creative build. So what you're going to do once you change the world name, you're going to scroll down over on the right where this little yellow arrow is pointing all the way to the bottom, as far as you can scroll in that right window. And at the very bottom, you're going to turn on the setting called Show Classroom Settings. So you have these little sliders. If they're to the left, they're off, like this show coordinates, that's off. If they're to the right, like the Show Classroom Settings, that means it's on. So we want to slide that slider to the right and turn that feature on. Once you turn it on, you're going to see some additional settings. So if you keep kind of scrolling down, you're going to have some more settings that pop up for you. And there's 3 things I want you to look at right now. The first is always day. That's kind of right above the Show Classroom Settings. I want you to turn that on. What that does is it makes it so that it won't get dark in your world. So Minecraft is just like a regular world. You know, it runs off of what's called ticks, and so many ticks equal a day, so many ticks equal a night. They're super, super fast. I don't know exactly the minute of the day or night cycles, but you don't want it to go to night when you're doing a creative build, right? You want it to be nice and bright and sunshiny. You know, we don't want to be building Legos in a dark room. We want it to be nice and light in the room. So we want it to be always day. And then if you go down just a little bit right below Show Classroom Settings, where the second arrow is, we want to turn on perfect weather. What that does is it means that it's not going to rain on us, basically, is what it does. So you don't want to be building Legos in the rain. It's not fun. Same in a Minecraft world. We don't want it to rain on us. We're going to turn on perfect weather. And then the third option is that we're going to look at right now. The rest of these we'll look at the end of today is allow mobs. This is completely optional of whether you want it on or off. What a mob in Minecraft world is, it's not like the mob that you think of. It's nothing scary. At first, when I started playing Minecraft, I'm like, mob? That sounds so scary and mean. Those must be like mean creatures. A mob in Minecraft is anything that moves. So if you turn this on to allow mobs, you'll see little chickens and cows and sheep kind of running around your world, right? Those are mobs. You don't get angry mobs unless you are working in like a non-peaceful mode, which I'll talk about later as well. So that's completely up to you. If you want to allow mobs on, you can. I usually turn it off. This is important when it comes to student builds. If you have students that have a hard time focusing as is, you're probably going to want to have them allow mobs off because they're going to get super distracted by the little chickens running around. And just in general, most students are going to get distracted by, you know, the mobs running, kind of roaming around the screen. You're not going to have a ton of them, but every now and again, you know, you'll see like a cow kind of wandering over here. If you want to see what that looks like, turn it on. Completely up to you. All right. So those are our settings. We're going to turn on always day, turn on perfect weather, and then allow mobs is completely up to you if you want it on or off. And once you have those settings, we're going to click on play, and that is going to send us into the world. So play is over on the left there. Let me pause real quick. Just let me know if there's any, Adam and Christy, questions. Oh, I drank too much tea this morning. Caffeine.
So turn on is a big toggle. The big question is, is turn on left or right?
Right.
And so that'll be right.
Yep. So here's the screen that shows always day. My Alexa just started talking to me. Apparently she thought. turn on always day. Yeah, turn on is to the right. So always day you want on, so you want to go to the right. And perfect weather you want on, so you want to go to the right. Allow mobs is up to you. If you want to see mobs, slide the slider to the right. If you don't want to see mobs, slide the slider to the left. That means it's off. Okay, I think we're good there. All right, moving on. So we're going to click on play. And if you don't get these settings right, it's really not a huge deal. You're just going to get rained on and it might get dark for a minute or two. It's not the end of the world. And I'll kind of talk more about at the end these classroom settings and what they mean. All right, so now hopefully you are in your world and you should just be seeing an endless screen of just like this of grass, just flat grass. If you turned on mobs, you might see some little animals roaming around. in addition to having those control guides that I gave you, notice that you also have your controls on the screen. This is something that can be turned off, but as you're learning Minecraft, it is really handy to kind of keep those on the screen for you. So I'm going to go through each of these, but if you forget any of them, just remember they're right there on the left side of your screen. So the first thing we're going to learn is how do we move in Minecraft. So what I want you to do is take your left hand and I want you to make a number 3. My virtual background's getting in the way. There we go. So just make a number 3 with your left hand like you see on the screen there. And then you're going to put those fingers on the letters A, S, and D on your keyboard. Okay? So A, S, D is where your 3 fingers go. This is gamer home row. All right? So when you learned how to type or keyboard when you were in school, you probably your teacher was probably like, keep your hands on home row, right? Don't take your hands off of home row. We don't want to get in bad habits. We don't want to hunt and peck at our keys. The same thing goes for gaming world. Any computer game that you play, this is most likely going to be how you move, WASD. So what those keys do, here's the arrows that show you. Your A moves you to the left, D moves you to the right, S moves you back, and then if you want to move forward, you move your middle finger up from the S key to the W key. That moves you forward. So go ahead and just practice that real quick and make sure you know how to move left, right, back, and forward using your WASD keys. If you're on an iPad, your controls are, I should have printed out my iPad guide so I had it in front of me. In either the bottom left or the bottom right, you should have arrows. That's how you move forward, back, left, right, is you touch those arrows instead of using your keyboard. The iPad, I don't know if iPad has the controls on the screen. I don't believe it does. I should go grab my iPad. I don't believe iPad has controls on the screen. Yep, so you're going to look for those arrows. All right. So now you know how to move left, right, forward, back. Now let's jump. So your space bar is your jump option. So if you tap the space bar once, you'll just jump up and jump down. You'll kind of see your little character move up and down. If you want to fly, you can double tap your keyboard, and that's going to send your character flying into the sky. Now, if you just double tap once, it's not going to look like you're going anywhere, right? But a good way, because you're not very far off the ground, but a good way to know if you're flying is if you look at your character in the top left corner. When you're not flying, your character looks like this. He's just kind of looking forward, right? When you're flying, he or she is looking down. Okay, so that's kind of how you can know if you're flying or not, is look for that little character. And if he's looking down, then you know that you are flying. So double tap gets you to fly. Now, if you want to fly higher, you just hold down your space bar and that moves you up. And just hold it down as far as you want to go up, let go when you're where you're at, and that will kind of stop you. And then you'll be able to look around your world. If you want to fly down, you hit the shift key. So shift, hold it down, will move you down. Spacebar, hold it down, moves you up. If you're flying and you want to just get back to the ground, you double tap your spacebar. Okay, now let me give you the iPad controls. Hold on one sec, let me grab my iPad is like right here. I forgot about that. I did this last time I did this training too. Any big questions while I'm getting my iPad out? Maybe if my iPad has power. Appears it might be dead. Oh, no, it's turning on. Sue is asking on Mac. So on a Mac, it's the same exact controls because you're using a keyboard and a mouse. So exactly what I just gave you there. WASD moves you around.
Lindy, Sue's asking specifically how to make it larger on a Mac. I'm not a Mac user. Do you know how to make the screen larger?
Yeah. So you just look for your, I am on a Mac, I'll just show you.
Perfect.
On a Mac, you just look for your little green button right here. That's your full screen button. So you can do that, or you just have to slide the slider, you know. So you got to get to the arrow here, just slide it and make it bigger. Or just hit that button and it'll put you in full screen mode, that little green button. Once you start flying, how do you change it back to the jump button? So once you start flying, if you want to jump, you have to double tap the space bar. That returns you to the ground. So you're not flying anymore. And then notice over here on the left, your little person's looking straight instead of down. And then you tap the space bar to jump. So tap the space bar once is jump. Double tap to fly. Hold down to fly up, and once you're flying, double tap your spacebar to return to the ground. On the iPad, mine is still booting up here, in the middle of your little arrow keys, there is, it looks like a little diamond, I believe. That's your jump key. All right, better move on here. So that's kind of your basic movement, moving around. One other moving around thing that's super important that I didn't talk about. If you look at the middle of your screen, you have a little crosshair that looks like this. The crosshair is kind of like your eyeballs. So that shows where you're looking, and that crosshair is controlled by your mouse. So if you move your mouse up, you're going to look up into the sky. If you move it down, you're going to look down at the ground. If you move it to the left, you're going to look left, etc. So move that around and get comfortable with that cursor. That kind of shows where you're going. Now let's use the example of you want to go somewhere. So say you want to walk towards a block or a tree or a mob. How you do that is you point your crosshair at where you want to walk, and then you hit the W key, and that moves you forward right to wherever your crosshair is pointing. Okay, so the big thing here is to keep those 3 fingers on your home row, ASD. Don't hunt and peck. You're gonna be a lot happier, just like with keyboarding, if you keep your hands on home row. Okay, so keep those 3 fingers on your gamer home row is a good way to think about it. And don't hunt and peck at those WASD keys. Even though it seems awkward right now, you're going to be a lot more efficient if you force yourself to do that. All right. Before we move on to building and destroying, any big questions? So the iPad does not have a crosshair. You're using your finger on the touch screen to move around the screen. So instead of that crosshair and using your mouse, you're dragging your finger around the screen, and that's how you're moving and looking around. So let's say you want to go over to the left, drag your finger to the left, and then hit the top arrow button. That will move you forward to wherever you're looking. Any other big questions? Oh, no, my iPad is completely dead. Sorry. I'll just keep cueing you guys. Let's see. All right, better keep going. So let's learn how to build and destroy blocks. So what I want you to do is I want you to point that crosshair at the ground. And what we're going to do is we're going to dig a small hole. And I emphasize small hole because you don't want to dig more than a few blocks down, because then you end up falling through basically the earth into like this pit of nothingness, and you can get back out. You can fly out, but it's really hard, especially if you're just learning Minecraft, because you have to fly up and you have to find the hole that you dug, fly back through the hole. So emphasis, dig a small hole. Don't dig more than 2 or 3 blocks down, and just destroy a few blocks, few of your grass blocks by left clicking on your mouse Those of you that are on your iPad, you're going to just drag your finger to look at the ground, and then you're going to tap the screen to destroy. So if you're using a mouse, you're going to left click on your mouse to destroy blocks. iPad, you're going to tap on a block to destroy. So go ahead, dig yourself a little hole, and you'll notice down in the bottom right corner, it cues you. It calls it mine. So left click equals mine. For some reason, when I was learning Minecraft, that did not click in my head. I was like, mine, what does mine mean? So for me, I, in my head, say left click equals destroy. And that's going to be one of the hardest things for most people, is to get your left and your right clicks not confused. So I just repeat that over and over. Left click destroy, left click destroy, left click destroy. So anytime you want to break a block, you want to left click. Now let's try to fill the hole that you dug. So we destroyed some blocks. Now let's see if we can place some blocks. So what I want you to do is I want you to point your crosshair at the ground to the hole that you dug, just like you see on the screen here. And I want you to right click. Right click equals place. If you're on an iPad, drag, tap, you hold down. So it's like a long press is place. Tap is destroy, long press is place. It might be opposite, is that right? On iPad, I don't understand how to dig a hole. Sorry, I might have had that backwards. iPad might be, I'm doing this from my memory. iPad might be press and hold, so long press is destroy. Did that do something? Long press destroy, yeah, that might be right, sorry. Long press is destroy, tap is place. Okay, yep, I had them backwards, sorry. So long press destroy, tap is place. So some of you are queuing into what's happening here. You're like, it's not working, nothing's placing, what's going on? So if you look down at the bottom of your screen, you see these little 9 boxes at the bottom. Those are called your hotkeys. This is where you place blocks that you want to use in your world. So since we've started this world, we haven't got any blocks that we can use. So you're pointing at this hole, you're right clicking and nothing is happening, right? You're not placing anything. Well, if you look right here, you can actually see this little guy right here. That's your hand or your arm for your avatar. So you're looking from the perspective of like if you are standing and looking through the eyes of your avatar and you have your little hand out there, your hand doesn't have anything in it to place into your world. So let's learn how to do that right now. So you don't have any blocks in your inventory, like basically is the thing. So there's your little hot slot keys and there's your hand. So what you want to do is you want to tap the E key on your keyboard. That will send you to your inventory. And your inventory looks like this screenshot in the bottom left here. You're just going to see a ton of blocks. If you're not seeing a ton of blocks, you want to look for the little magnifying glass button on the top. There's all these different little tabs. Click on that little magnifying button, and that will give you all the blocks that you have available to you. Then what we're going to do is we are going to find a grass block because we want to fill the hole with grass blocks because we destroyed those grass blocks, right? So you're going to click up into your search bar. You're going to type grass, and it's going to filter that inventory of all of those thousands of blocks that you have to only the blocks that have to do with grass. And the grass block that we want is the one that looks like an actual block right here. There are some other different types of grass. There's like tall grass, etc. If you hold your mouse over those blocks, kind of hover your mouse over them, it will pop up what block that is. It'll tell you the name of that block. So we want to find the grass block that looks like this. And then you're going to left click on that block. If you're on an iPad, you're just going to tap the block. and you're going to drag that block down into your hot slot keys. And just put it in the first one for now. So it'll look just like what I have right here. You should see grass blocks in the first hot slot key, and it should say 64 if you left clicked on it. So what that means is when I left click on a block in my inventory, it grabs 64 of those blocks that I can then use to place into my world. The other thing that you can do in your inventory is you can right click on a block, and that will just give you one block. So sometimes that's useful. Let's say that you're building a house and you want to put on a front door. Well, you don't need 64 doors, right? You only need one door. So if you right click on the block in the inventory, you get one. If you left click, you get 64 of most blocks. There are some types of blocks where it will only give you like one at a time. Okay, so you're going to grab some grass blocks. You're going to stick it into that first hot slot key. And then we're going to close out of our inventory by clicking the X in the top right corner. And that's going to send us back into our world. And now let's try filling our hole again. So try pointing your crosshair at your hole and right clicking. That will place the grass blocks into that hole and see if you can fill the hole that you destroyed. If you're on an iPad, you're just going to tap to fill the hole. So you can see here now that first yellow arrow, that's pointing to my grass block that I now have in my hot slot keys. And then now look over on the right here where the second arrow is pointing. I don't see my hand anymore. I see a grass block. It's a little hard to see because it's kind of camouflage because we have grass on grass. That's an easy way to know if you have something that you are ready to place into your Minecraft world. Okay, so that's how you destroy blocks. That's how you go and get blocks from your inventory in order to place them into the world. The analogy that I use of the inventory and the hot slot keys is I think of it like a backpack. So imagine you're running around your little Minecraft world and you have a backpack on. Your backpack is your inventory. It has all of the blocks available to use. Well, when I want to go and use a block, I'm not going to take my backpack off and dig through it every single time that I want to find a block that I want to use. What I do is I take the blocks that I have available to me in my backpack, I pull them out and I put them in my pockets. So those 9 hot slot keys down on the bottom here, those are like your pockets. That's where you put the things from your inventory or your backpack that you want to actually use in your world. Okay. So hopefully you were able to fill your hole with those grass blocks, and now you've got a nice pretty blocks of grass world again. Let's do a practice since you just learned how to use your inventory and see if you can go into your inventory, find a brick block, and then place some brick blocks in your world. And while you're doing that, I'll stop and address any questions that we have. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, I might want to tell you this, once you get that brick block, what's going to happen is you'll get the brick block, you'll go back into your world, and then if you try to place the bricks into your world, it's most likely going to place a grass block because that's what you have in your hand. So what you have to do to move amongst those hot slot keys to select the block that you want to place in the world, there's 3 different things. One is if you have a mouse, you can scroll your mouse wheel and that will move the selector along those 9 hot slot keys. The other thing you can do is the numbers 1 through 9 on your keyboard will select the corresponding hot slot key. So in this example, I would tap number 2 and it's going to move the selector to my brick block in the second hot slot key. Or if you're on a touch screen, so iPad, or if you have a Surface or something like that that has a touch screen, you can just simply tap the box that you want to select. So you would just tap the brick blocks and then you can place those into your world. Okay, I think that, yeah, there we go. That should give you everything you need to know in order to place your brick blocks into the world. Any major questions? Okay, so yeah, questions about hot slot keys, I've just addressed that. So on the iPad, how do you fill the hole? You make sure you have the grass block selected in your hand, right? So you want it selected on the hot slot keys by just tapping on the box that the grass block is in. And then you just simply tap to place the block in the world. So wherever you want that block to go, you tap and it should place that block in there. Any other iPad questions? Let me go grab any other big questions while we're waiting here before I move on? I was just going to print this for myself real quick. So I have it in front of me so I quit cueing you guys wrong. Let's do slide 28. Did slides. There we go. Dunsky. All right, I'm not hearing any questions. I'm going to move on. We've covered almost all of the main things. Okay, so hopefully you were able to get your brick block placed into the world. These are a few kind of FAQs of why can't I place this block in the world? So this is kind of the #1 question when people start playing Minecraft. They can't figure out how to get the block into the world. So a few things that might happen if you can't get the block to place is make sure you are you're actually selecting a block. So if you just have your crosshair kind of pointing into the air, it's not going to place that block anywhere. You have to be selecting a block to put a block on top of another block. So there's actually this really faint, let me see if I can find a screenshot of it right there. See that black outline where my crosshair is pointing? That means that I'm selecting that block, and that's where I'm going to place the block that's going into the world. So if you don't see that black outline, you're not selecting a block. The other thing that happens a lot is if you're too far or too close to a block, it will not place another block into the world. The other thing that sometimes happens is certain blocks can't be placed on certain blocks. So for example, you can't put a tree on concrete, right? A tree doesn't grow on concrete. So if you have a tree block and you're trying to place it on a concrete block, it won't let you because that's how the game works, right? So those are just some kind of FAQs for you. Okay, do we have time to do a quick build? Not really. We're gonna do like a 3-minute build just to give you a little bit of practice. And don't worry, you can keep practicing after we're done today before we get into our build challenge tomorrow. And then that's pretty much what we're gonna be spending our time on tomorrow, is having you guys actually build in Minecraft. So for my brick block people, if you want to take a few minutes, see if you can build, actually let's do a tree just because that's a little bit faster than the superhero. See if you can figure out how to build a tree in Minecraft using the skills that you know now, how to grab your blocks from the inventory, how to search the inventory, find the blocks that you need. And then my iron group people, if you want to jump back in here, you could see if you could build a dream house or a castle. And let's just pause. Let me do that for a few minutes. I'll answer any questions. And then we will wrap up about our settings. And that's about it for today. Let me go grab my iPad thing so I can answer those questions. Right there. Okay, I got it. So iPad people. All right, yes, so crosshair is in the bottom left. That's how you move. Your little diamond shape is to jump. I talked about that. Press and hold to destroy blocks. Single tap to place blocks. Oh, and you know what? I'm not sure I cued this part, but your inventory, if you look, instead of hitting the E key because you don't have a keyboard, right? Down on the bottom, you have your 9 hot slot keys or your pockets. There is a button at the very end that looks like an ellipse, 3 dots. That's how you access your inventory. And above and beyond that, everything else is the same. So it's just those basic kind of navigation things that are different because you don't have a keyboard and a mouse. All of the functionality is the same for iPad. I do not believe the iPad has the ability to put the controls up on the screen though, like you can on Windows and Mac. All right, questions. On iPad, chat's moving so fast I can't track the question. How do you remove blocks from your inventory if needed? Oh, good question. So it's kind of the same. To remove blocks from your hotkeys, you just drag and drop them back into your inventory. So if you are on an iPad, you would just press and hold on the block and just drag it back into the inventory. If you're using a mouse, you just click on that block and just drag it back into the inventory. All right, to make a tree, I dug a hole, I put seeds, and put grass. Now I'm watching my block. So Ashley, you are doing what you're kind of at the I'm trying to grow a tree stage, which is fine. So you can grow a tree if you want. The trick is, once you plant the seed or the inventory, whatever it is, you have to fertilize it. So that's why nothing is growing most likely. Also, sometimes like particular trees and seed types and all of that can be a little particular about where they're grown. So if you go into your inventory and you search for bone meal, I believe is what it's called, that will fertilize your tree. So find the bone meal and then place the bone meal where you put the seeds and see if that grows your tree. Let's see. I accidentally mined when trying to place as I got closer. I am pressing space forward to try to get out of a hole. So remember, you can fly. So if you're in a hole, just fly yourself out. Double tap your space bar. That puts you into fly mode. Or if you're on their iPad, you're going to hit the little diamond button in the bottom right. Double tap that. That's how you fly, and just fly yourself out. I know it's not ideal, but if students don't have a device that will work, could we use Minecraft together on a smart board? You could, Susan. Yeah, I mean, if you have the computer connected where you have the touch controls on the smart board, you could, yeah. You'd probably just have to have one person controlling up at the smart board controlling it though. Okay, Adam, yeah, flying out. On a map, when I try to click on the right to place my blocks, I'm actually destroying blocks. So depending upon, Susan, are you using an external mouse on your Mac, or are you using like the touchpad? Because if you're using a touchpad, you have to double tap the touchpad to right click on a Mac. So that is why we highly recommend, if you're using a Windows or Mac device, to have an external mouse and keyboard. You could see where, not so much the keyboard, actually, sorry, no, we only say external mouse. You can see why, because it can be really challenging to navigate Minecraft with a touchpad on a laptop. So that's why we highly recommend that external mouse. My kid just took over. Jenna, see if your kid can figure out how to share your builds. If anybody wants to take a screenshot and share your builds in the chat or in the Padlet, feel free to. You don't have to. I'm not going to go into detail of how to do that. We'll share builds tomorrow, but that will at least, we can pop some in the chat if you can figure it out. Oh, good, Ashley. The bone meal worked. You grew a yellow flower. Perfect. It's on a tree. So yeah, you want to actually go search in your inventory for tree, or I think it's called sapling. Look for like a sapling block, place that, and then put the bone meal on the sapling, and then it will grow into a full-size tree. That's kind of fun to do. Okay. All right. That is the questions I'm seeing. All right. We better move on. If you were able to build something, and you can take a screenshot. If you want to use the snipping tool and copy, you can paste it into the chat or on the Padlet. I see a few things popping up over on the Padlet here. I'll come back and look at that at the end. All right, we better move on so we can get done here in time. So settings, let's go back to settings. We talked about a few classroom settings at the beginning. Let's kind of go into detail about that. So first of all, you need to know how to pause and kind of get out of your world. So escape is kind of like the pause button in Minecraft. So if you hit the escape key on your keyboard, that will pause your world. And on an iPad, the very top, you have 3 buttons. The middle button is your pause button. It looks like a pause button, 2 little vertical dashes. So escape key or the pause button on a touch screen iPad, that will take you to this screen right here. So you get 3 options. You have how to play, settings, and save and exit. Don't save and exit quite yet. I want to have you go into settings, and let's look more in detail at the settings that you have available to you. So you're going to click on settings. And then you'll see the same thing that we saw this morning or earlier, not this morning. It's not morning where you guys are. So over on the right, you're going to scroll down all the way to the bottom and make sure show classroom settings is on. And that's where you're going to find all of these settings that are available to you. So we did always day, we did perfect weather, we did allow mobs. Let's talk about the other 4 options there. These are detailed in your slides for you. So here's the description of the 3 that we already talked about. And here's the other 4. So the other classroom settings, allow destructive items. If you turn that off, so slide it to the left, it will disable the ability to use things like TNT and lava to destroy things. Now, teachers are always like, well, of course I want to turn that off. But there are times where you might want to use that. You know, maybe you're working in a ecosystem that has a volcano. So maybe you want to use lava. It just kind of depends on what you're doing. But you do have the ability to turn destructive items on or off. Player damage will disable the ability for players to damage each other. Now, players can only damage each other if they're playing in survival mode, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So if you're doing what we're doing here and you're doing a creative build and you have students in the same world, that's not something you have to worry about anyway. That will make more sense in a second. A mutable world. This is a really handy feature for teachers. If you turn that on, so slide to the right, that basically makes it so that students in the world can't do anything to the world. They can't place blocks. They can't destroy blocks. They can just wander around. It's like a view only mode is a good way to think about it. That is handy sometimes. Like let's say you are doing a social studies history lesson and you have a recreation. There's a world that's like a recreation of ancient Babylon. So you want them to just go into the world and look at it. You don't want them able to edit the world in any way. You can go turn on a mutable world and that will make like a view only mode. And then player versus player damage prevents players from incurring damage to each other. So again, that's only an issue if you're in a survival mode world, which let's talk about that right now. Actually, sorry. First, let's talk about some additional settings. So if anybody was feeling kind of motion sick while you're playing Minecraft, that does happen to people. There are some settings that you can change. So if you are in the settings over on the left, you'll see a video and an audio option. If you click on video, you can turn what's called bobbing off. So this view bobbing feature right here, if you slide that slider to the left, what it does is if you notice when you're walking through a Minecraft world, your character kind of bobs up and down, it will turn that off so the character stays stagnant. So that sometimes really helps people if you're getting motion sick. You can also change your perspective. So most people play in the first person perspective where it's like you're in the body of your Minecraft character looking through their eyes and you see only their hand. You can change it. There's like a third person perspective where you actually see the character and you're kind of floating above them. And then there's one other option. So that's something that you can play around with and see what you're comfortable with. The other thing that you might want to mess with is if you go to audio on the left, you can turn the music and sound volume all the way off. So if you're in a classroom and your students don't have headphones, you can just have them turn that all the way off. I have mine set to permanently off because Minecraft was becoming like a soundtrack of my dreams. So I just have mine set off all the time. Okay, now game modes or world types. You might hear me say world type. It's actually called game mode. That's where we get into the survival versus creative that I was just talking about. So in the same area that you found your classroom settings, if you scroll to the top of that section, you'll see where it says default game mode. If you click on that, you have 3 options of how to set your world type. And this slide explains those different game modes. So creative mode is what we were doing just now. We were building, we had endless inventory. Okay, so we were able to go into our inventory and find any block that we wanted, as many blocks as we wanted. We don't have to worry about hunger, health, etc. Survival mode is what most people play Minecraft in and what you've probably heard of. That is where you actually have to find food and water and make shelter. So you might have to farm to grow food. So you can actually basically die, right? And then if you die, you respawn. That means you basically come back alive. You know, like kind of like Super Mario dies and you have 3 lives, you come back alive. So that's survival mode. There are times where you might use survival mode, but I usually say creative mode is what you're gonna use like 95% of the time. Anytime that you can think of like using Minecraft with that Legos analogy that we're building things, you're gonna wanna be in creative mode. Survival mode is, I see used some in science, like the space shuttle or the space station example I gave, where you put them in a space station and they have to figure out how to grow food and find water. That would be a survival mode example. And then adventure mode, you're probably going to rarely, if ever, use. That's kind of the same as an immutable world. It's basically a world that can't be changed. So people that go into it, you can't place or destroy blocks. You can only move around, see, view, kind of like a view only mode. Here is a nice little table that kind of shows you the difference between creative and survival. Another big difference of survival mode is you can't fly in survival mode, okay? The other big difference is in survival mode, your peaceful setting matters. So there are difficulty setting. There are 4 difficulty settings. You have peaceful, easy, normal, hard. Just set it to peaceful. Peaceful means that you have no angry mobs. The other 3, basically easy, normal, hard, change based upon the aggressiveness of the hostile mobs. So I always just tell people, just set it to peaceful and in there. When in doubt, set to peaceful. Okay, so last thing I want you to do is, if you're in these settings, click on the arrow in the top left. That will take you back to this view. And now, instead of clicking settings, we're going to click save and exit. Save this world. And then we're going to use this world again tomorrow. So when we start tomorrow's session, I want you to have your same world open that you had today that you were building in, and also have a piece of paper and a pencil or pen with you. And oh gosh, I'm out over time. So sorry, Jennifer. Sorry, I was over time. I'm passing it over to you.
Oh my gosh, no worries at all, Lindy. I mean, there was so much information shared. Everybody's, asking questions and helping each other out in the chat, which is amazing. I know we're over time. You can skip my bio slide. We don't have to get into it. I already met a lot of people here. This is really just what my team does at CDW, which is just helping plan trainings, professional development around awesome Microsoft for Education tools. What's really important for everyone, you can go to the last slide, is what I'm about to throw in the chat, and that is going to be a link to a Minecraft Education Edition resource that I put together for our Idea CDW-G event. So that link is in there. If you guys want to open that, it's going to include links to great trainings, because Lindy's gotten us started. We've got a few more days together, but if you want to keep digging in on your own, lots of trainings are linked in there. So take advantage of that. It's got some really good information. And that can be all for me. I know people want the link for their PD hours too. So I don't want to keep us away from that.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. Sorry, I didn't mean to go over and people.
No problem.
So tomorrow we will be back here 12 o'clock Central. We are going to do classroom build challenges. So again, make sure you have that same world open that we used today. I'll kind of go through that. If you're having troubles getting back there, have your paper and pencil ready. Make sure you're comfortable with the things that we learned today. So if you need to, go back in the PowerPoint and practice getting into your inventory, getting blocks, placing them in the world, navigating your Minecraft world, because you're going to need to know those things. And PD credits for today. Hopefully, we put the link in the chat.
I did put that in the chat a few times, so go ahead and you'll see that bit.ly in the chat there. If you did not get it for yesterday, I also put in the email address for our PDH. It's pdh@ideaillinois.org. Go ahead, email that email, and we will send you the link for yesterday separately. So thank you so much, you guys. This was so much fun. I was howling over here. Thank God I was on mute with my son because he kept getting involved and taking over. And then, like I said, I asked him how to erase something and get rid of what he created. So he just flew me somewhere else and said, start here. And I was like, but that's not what, where am I now? I don't even know where I am.
Nice.
So much fun today. Thank you very much. We appreciate it and looking forward to tomorrow again. So join us at noon again tomorrow, everybody.
Awesome. I'll stick around for a couple minutes if there were any questions that didn't get answered. I also just pulled up the Padlet and there are a couple builds in here that got shared. We've got some awesome trees. There we go. Built. So you can take a look at that. And then somebody shared a great let's see, the study guide, self-assessment for students here. So make sure to check that out as well. That's in the Padlet. We've got lots of good stuff there. Any questions that I did not get to, feel free, add to the chat, or you can unmute. And I will just stick around and answer questions. If you are done, you got your PD credit, you're good to go, you can sign off. And we'll see you back here at noon Central. Thanks, everybody.